It's an action-packed evening of Wrestling with the Future. I always wanted to say that, Murph. An action-packed evening. Because tonight it really is. I've got a frequent guest, a returning guest, a woman who I love dearly, and I haven't seen her in a long, long time. Barbara Goodish. Affectionately, we call her Mrs. Bruiser Brody. I love this woman. She's never, I got news for you. This woman has never said no to me. Never. Not one time. And she proudly wears her Wrestling with the Future t-shirt. And let me introduce the crew because I have an announcement to make tonight. This is a newcomer with us. This is Jake Hudson. He is our new producer in training. He is a whiz kid with the computer. He is also a proud member of the National Autistic Society, of which we will support, and I will make that announcement tonight. And he suffers from Asperger's, and we will also make that announcement tonight. And Jake is a huge wrestling fan, Barbara, but moreover, he is a huge Bruiser Brody fan. Wow. Imagine that.
Well, that's
of course, you know Mike Murphy. Murphy is he's the thorn in my side that I can't get rid of. No, he's a dear friend of 23 years. Oh my God, Murph! Holy crap!
Well, Barbara, it's great to see you again. This is also his comments. This is also why he doesn't get the good gifts at Christmas.
Oh, I see.
He ain't lying. He ain't lying. Well, let me make a couple of announcements. This show, Wrestling with the Future, and our partner show, Having Coffee with the King, we will make a concerted effort to support the National Autism Foundation. We will also support the National Asperger's Foundation, both financially and inherently. We will also have members of those organizations here on the show to talk about what they do and how they raise money and how we can help them raise some money. And I wanted to make that announcement at the outset. The other thing that I'm very proud of, and I wanted to say this while Barbara was here, and I thought about this. We are one of the very few shows, and I'm very proud of this, Barb, that's never addressed the Puerto Rico issue. And I told you before that we would not, and we won't. That issue brought enough pain for you and your family and everyone else, quite frankly. And we're not going to do that. And Bruiser Brody lives on in my memory as Frank Goodish, the person, and Bruiser Brody, the crazy man that drove Abdullah nuts.
That's for sure.
That being said, would you please welcome to the show my friend, the woman we affectionately refer to as Mrs. Bruiser Brody, Barbara Goodish. Barb, welcome home, kid.
Thank you. Thank you all.
All right. Barb, I wanted to back, because first of all, it's been a long time since we've seen you. And it's funny, though, the 2020 was the year of COVID, but it was also the year of Bruiser Brody. People don't know what I'm talking about. Let me explain to you. For whatever reason, and Barb, and I have to find out why from you, and I don't know why, but all of a sudden in 2020, wrestling was like besmitten all over again with Frank Goodish, Bruiser Brody. The books, the videos, the Wrestling's Last Rebel, all this Brody related material, even guys paying tribute to Frank with the way they look, with the bushy hair and the beard, like looking like the wild man. If people realized that Frank Goodish was as far removed from that guy as you could possibly be, it would scare some people, because Frank Goodish was gentle and kind and incredibly intelligent, bright, dare say brilliant. He was a genius, absolutely. And wrestling can certainly use his genius now. Like right now.
Desperately.
So, Barbara, you deal with a lot of this. You see Frank has become a celebrity all over again.
This is what absolutely amazes me that it was 33 years this last July since he left us, and he is more popular and more well known today than what he was 33 years ago. And the new people that remember him, of course, there's all us that do remember him, but the ones, they were not even born when
I know.
he passed. And that amazes me too, because I'll go to some of these events like the Cauliflower Alley and the Hall of Fame up in Waterloo, Iowa, and I'll have these kids. I call them kids because they're young, and they'll come up to me.
Well, yeah, they are.
and some of them, they'll have tattoos, and I'll ask them their age, and they weren't even born. And it's like,
I know.
They found him from, I guess, all the YouTube videos. I think one things that really came, of course, I wrote the book, but not even that, was Vice, when the Vice Dark Side of the Ring.
Yes.
So it didn't it touched on something we don't want to talk about. But whatever it was, people just found a fascination after that episode. And that was their pilot episode when the producers came to me. They had not even been picked up for any of their others. This is I think the third season now that they're going side of the ring. So
it's remarkable. It really is remarkable that and again, and I'm only going to peripherally mention this. What happened shed light not only on the world of professional wrestling, but it stunned and shocked wrestling fans. Not so much what happened, because we've seen that happen before, but I think the fact that it happened from another wrestler is what that's what woke everyone up in the world of wrestling. And that's as much as I'm going to talk about that. And I think because that happened, Frank, in a lot of ways, because of that, became a legend and folklore. You think about the young guys today, Barbara, that are paying tribute to Frank with their looks. You've had I have to say now, the late Brody Lee. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Young guy, but the guy looked like Frank. He looked like a young Bruiser Brody. Murph, the other one, the one that WWE just let go. That wild man. Braun
Strowman.
Thank you, Braun. Another crazy one, right?
Right.
But all paying homage to Bruiser Brody. It wasn't until, and it's funny when you're locked down in your house for a year, you got a lot of time to think.
That's true.
You got a lot of time to think about like what makes things tick. And I thought about what made Bruiser Brody tick with people. And I think the fact that he is larger than life. He will both literally and figuratively. At 6'6", you're kind of like bigger than everybody anyway. But Frank Goodish had this aura about him, this presence that you knew better than anybody. I want you to let us into your world. I'm going to ask you to do that for me, because we've talked about Frank, the man, the myth, the legend, but we've never talked about Barbara, and I want to talk about Barbara. So let me into the world of Frank and Barbara Goodish.
Go right back to when I first met him, when I was working the hotel and he was overseas. He had just come in the business then. He hadn't been in it that long. And Fritz, I think, was Fritz von Erich that had got him the tour over in Australia and New Zealand. And it just so happened, I just happened to be working the hotel. I happened to be working the front desk that day when they checked in, because we had a lot of the wrestlers used to stay at the hotel that I worked in. And you're talking about from Andre the Giant to Don Morocco to Rick Martel, and I could go on. And I met all these people, J.J. Dillon, Tony Guerrero. I mean, I could go on, and these were all the people that I met. And a lot of them I still know today.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
Dave and Tony are still my best friends. I see them on a constant basis, and these are all people that I met, over 40, over
You're
40
you're
years
you're
ago.
close with Tony Garea.
Yeah, yeah, because he's
Can you do
yeah.
me a favor? Would you tell Mercy to like loosen her grip a little? I want to get him on the show.
Well, I will talk to Tony. Tony, as I said, in fact, that was as I said, one of the reasons Tony was my friend. Mercy was
Yeah,
my friend, and now they're So I see
beautiful.
them. Yeah, I see
Absolutely.
them on a constant basis. I see JJ and his daughter too on a
It,
constant basis.
it
So
is amazing. Barb, the world. You just prompted this thing in my head. And
whoops,
Murphy and I can both relate to what you're saying. It's a family. It's
yes,
it's your family away from family.
A
You,
man's family, but a
you're on the
family.
road. A lot of times you're on the road with these people. Go ahead, Murph. Take over a little bit.
Okay, Barbara, first let me say it's great to see you again.
good to see you.
And couple things I wanted to put out to you. I remember Frank, watching Frank in Mid-South and NWA, and I remember and seeing matches on YouTube, and about you and Frank was, what was it like? Because I know from my personal experience from my ex-wife, when she came to see my first match, and was not happy about it afterwards, because like Frank, I colored that match that night. Or as I guess they say, juiced that match. I guess they say that now. Um, what was your first reaction to his first match? That's question number one. Question number two is, how did you feel about, I don't know if you've seen it or not, Mark Calloway, Undertaker, speaking about his first match being a new guy in the ring against Frank. And when he said, Frank got home, he said, "Come on, kid, we're going for a walk." I knew when he said that there was nothing good going to happen then.
Absolutely.
But the one thing is, they always remember the match with him, and
Yes.
if Frank, if they would let themselves go, he would take care of them, because he knew that business wants to make them look as good as what
Absolutely.
he looked, not to be so powerful that he couldn't create a match. Otherwise, that takes everything away. He'd like a book. He'd like to just do it, bring the book just very slow and then build it up to where people really wanted to see that match, because there were stories back in the old days.
Oh,
don't have
I
the
love
stories
you.
now.
Thank you. Thank you. I just fell in love with you. Thank you. But what was your feelings?
Stories. Holy cow.
What was your feeling seeing Frank in the ring for the first time and seeing him, juicing a match or coloring a match?
I hardly saw any of his matches.
Really?
Really, he never told me. I think what he kept to be successful, he kept the private life away from the wrestling life.
Ah.
And a lot of times,
that's funny that
yeah.
No, we've never talked. You and I have never talked about that. I never even thought about it, to be honest with you. I just assumed that you had, seen him work.
No, one of the
wow.
Because a lot of times when in Texas, if he was home and he was working with Fritz or Joe Blanchard, either one of them two, there was the two different territories, and he could drive somewhere, like for example Corpus Christi. Jeff was little at the time. We would drive up with him, but me and Jeff would go walk along the river, or walk along the street and really not go into the match at all. But one match he took me to, which I am very appreciative, it was when the Japanese were over Japanese came over to film the match, and it was him and Ric Flair, and they did the hour in St. Louis.
Oh, yes. That's a legendary match, by the way. And if you haven't seen it, check it out.
Right,
They say you never forget your first time, Barbara. They say you never forget your first time.
and that I would
I'm
say.
sorry. I just heard somebody in the background.
Sorry, that was me. My bad. I should have muted it. My bad.
Oh, was that you? Well, again, they say you never forget your first time. Well, Jake, this is your first time up, my brother. How's that for a segue? That's you, Jake. You're up.
Sorry about that. I've been sitting here listening. I'm sorry about that noise. I should have muted it when I heard them coming in. My bad. But
Oh, good.
by the way, I've been by the way, little note. Michael, Mr. Murphy's audio is a little bit loud. I had to turn down his when he started talking.
No, that's his voice. He's got a very boisterous voice.
Yeah.
I've known him all these years. That he sounds like that on or off camera.
Yeah. I actually have a question for Miss Goodish, if you don't mind me asking.
Well, that's why she's here.
Yeah. I'm not gonna talk about that thing that we were told not to talk about.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I'm very, number one, I'm very excited to do this interview. I'm a little bit nervous. Sorry about the nerves.
You're okay.
You have a question about Bruiser Brody as a wrestler, or how life with living with a wrestler? You have any questions like that, Jake?
What was his finisher? What was his center and finisher? Because I should have did my research on it. I should have did my research.
That's an interesting question, Barbara. What was Frank's finishing move? What was he known for?
Whoa, that's
that's kind of a loaded question, isn't it?
I think he just whatever was around.
Yeah, Murphy, you watched a lot of Bruiser Brody.
Yeah. What move did he do the most? I'm going
the
to ask you a question. The big boot, yeah, that was one. The big boot, the sleeper hold, the kick off the top rope, the big kick. I think.
Yeah, he was one of the first.
Everything.
You know what? Yeah, he was kind of one of the first guys that I know of. And I've been watching Bruiser Brody since I was like a little shit. And I'm still. But I have to tell you, I do not honestly remember a finishing move or a signature like a Brody move, because Frank did kind of, like you said, whatever was available.
Yeah, I think he never became boring because nobody could tell when it was going to be the finishing move.
Well, let's talk about that, because I had a conversation with Lex Luger one night.
Oh.
I did. And I mentioned, in fact, I think I might have mentioned it to you on the last show that we did. I had a conversation with Lex Luger, and I said to him, son, what the hell were you thinking? Are you crazy? Because Lex is younger than I am. So I can get away with calling him son. I said, are you out of your mind? What were you thinking? You're in there with Bruiser Brody, okay? Frank Goodish, who is a nice guy, okay? And if Frank, he's the veteran. If he says, follow me, you follow. Apparently you didn't follow. What happened? And he's basically said to me that Frank stopped selling for him. I said, well, yeah, because you weren't listening. Right. You didn't do what he said. He said, follow me. And you went into business for yourself. The veterans don't like that from the greenhorns.
No.
Not at all.
You know? Did you ever hear from Frank why, or from his perspective? What did he ever tell you about that, Barb?
I think it was kind of like, you know something? I would have taken care of the kid if he'd listened to me.
And that's the gist. That's what I heard. that he didn't listen. Frank kind of like stop. Okay, well, if you're going to go into business, go ahead, kid. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, and he would have given because I think this is right now, he would always give them, no matter who he was fighting with,
Yeah,
wrestling with, he would always give them a lot of high spots, because then that makes it, otherwise, okay, here's this big group. He's going to go into the match and just beat somebody up. How boring is that?
exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
So go in there.
Jake.
Let them have a little.
Jake, questions for Mrs. Goodish, for Barbara.
What was Frank's favorite food?
Oh, there you go.
A big,
Everything.
juicy steak.
A steak.
The bigger the better.
There you go, Jake.
All the trimmings.
Bruiser Brody likes steak with all the fixings. Probably lots of mushrooms and onions and.
Oh yeah, baked potatoes. I mean, you name it. Nothing really.
That's a
healthy,
Mike
just
Murphy
everything.
dinner, man.
Oh, you're not lying. You are
I
not
know
lying.
it, man.
In fact,
Beautiful.
there's a picture that just came on. You know, he's got his own Facebook page. What's it called? I gotta remember. What is it? Yeah, Bruiser Brody, Wrestling's Last Rebel. I always forget them. And
Yeah.
there's actually a picture, I think, in Japan with him holding up a steak. And he was.
Cool.
You know,
very
Tony,
proud.
I mentioned that at the beginning of the show, Wrestling's Last Rebel.
Yeah.
And you were actually part of that book, right? You wrote. It was a book, right?
Yeah.
And I believe it's also.
You see?
There it is.
Can you see it? I can't see. Yeah,
That's the one. Yep.
And Larry.
Hey, Angelo, Christmas is coming up. I know what I want.
You know what? I know somebody can get it for us, because I know the lady that wrote that book.
Yeah, let me know, and I've got copies.
Yeah, I'm going to hit you up for a couple, Barb.
And Barb, if you don't mind, I'd like to have it autographed.
Definitely, I do.
Beautiful. Barbara, was that book supposed to have a video companion? Because I heard it was.
It's got there's a high spot. In fact, I don't think yeah. There. I think I got it too.
Oh, okay, there it is. Yeah.
Where can you see? I'm trying.
Yes.
Yes, we can see it, yeah.
Yep.
Wrestling's Last Rebel 3-disc set. I think it was High Spots came out with that.
Oh, High Spots put it out. Okay.
But I don't think I have a bunch of copies of these, but nobody now has DVDs. A lot of DVDs. They all have.
Well, I got news for you, Barb. When we're finished the show tonight, you're going to get rid of some of them.
Like I said, I have copies of these. I got copies of these too. 3-disc set.
I'm going to get a couple of them from you too.
And
like Murphy said, Christmas is coming up.
Yep.
And this is where they got the name for. I just suddenly realized that they got the name for the Facebook group.
I got a question for you, Barb. It's well known that Stan Hansen and Frank were close friends. I have a lot of contacts, a lot of connections, and a lot of goodwill in the wrestling industry. And I found out something today that I almost wanted to say it would surprise me, but quite frankly, I wasn't surprised.
Okay.
I heard initially that Frank and Stan didn't get along.
Maybe that was for some. No, they but shouldn't let things go. But they were best of friends.
Or was that was that wrestling folklore?
Of course, because sometimes they wrestled against each other, and then they were a strong team, and they did Japan. They were very big together in Japan.
And that's what I remember.
Stan,
that's what Mike Murphy and
I.
Mike Murphy and I remember that. Hansen and Brody in Japan, forget about it.
Oh my gosh, no!
They didn't. No one stood a chance.
Jay,
are you familiar with that? The Stan Hansen and Bruiser Brody in Japan. Are you familiar with that, Jake?
I am. This is actually the first time I've heard about it. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I've I'm sorry. I'm a little bit nervous.
You're a little. That's okay.
Relax.
Well,
Nerves.
Just relax.
that's okay. Well, this is live. It's okay. It happens when you go live. Murph, go ahead, brother. I want to toast it over to you. I'll
All
get
right,
my
Barbara,
pictures to work.
question. Question: was there anyone in the business? I mean, I know Frank was a gentle giant, and anyone I've talked to that has known him, what an easygoing guy was. Was there anyone that he actually had real, inside and outside of the ring, had real heat with?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think.
I know.
Who? Refresh my mind.
Honestly, real legit heat. This is no BS. Manny Fernandez
Ah,
in Southwest Championship Wrestling. He had heat with Manny, and he did not like Tiger Conway Jr.
okay. Because I know I'm friends with Manny too.
I know Manny. Manny's been on the show. We've talked about it.
Yeah. And because there were, let's be honest, he had heat with a few people. He was known sometimes to not get along with a few people because he took care of the business. You have to, that was his one thing. He was a businessman. He wasn't just a wrestler.
Absolutely.
He was
Barb, that prompts a question, Barbara. There are very few people who have ever really, and I'll use my colloquial expression, who have ever pushed Frank's buttons, okay? Few people have ever really pushed his buttons and lived to tell the tale. Because, what an angry Bruiser, and really a straight shoot angry Bruiser Brody was not a happy guy, okay? Frank has been known to be temperamental and hard to work with and hard to do business with. Was that, here's the question, and it's going to sound like, and Murphy knows where I'm going with this. It's going to sound like a duplicitous question. Was that Frank being Frank, or was that Frank being Bruiser?
I think that was Frank being Frank, because you have to remember, a lot of times, especially with some of the promoters, you get contracted for a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
And you go and they try to cheat. It doesn't matter what kind of business you're in. It could be the entertainment business. It could be a business where you're out that. And that was one of his, or he brings home a check and it bounces.
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah, Mike, you and I know a little bit about that. Promoter says, I'm going to give you X amount of dollars, and then he welches on it, reneges on his deal. So now you got a 2-hour car ride under your belt, or 2 or 3 hour car ride, maybe 400, 500 miles. And you think you're getting $500, and you end up getting a $12, a $12 food voucher.
Yeah.
Well, I can't fill up my gas tank with a food voucher.
And to go back to the other question, and two, if they tried, anyone that tried to cheat him, or anyone that tried to hurt him in the ring, because sometimes people will try to hurt the other people. You know what I mean? I know he's a heavy hitter and things like that, but he would never try to hurt anybody.
Yeah.
I know accidents happen in the ring. We know that too.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Oh, sure.
Barb, I remember, I've got to relate this story to her. I used to work for a horror con, and we used to get a lot of celebrities there. We'd get a lot of wrestlers there. We had the late Joe Laurinaitis, Greg the Hammer Valentine, guys like that.
Yeah.
And there was always this one group of guys on a Saturday night after the con shut down at the hotel. That's when the partying started.
Oh yeah.
I was doing security, but when my security shift went in, I tip a couple. And I remember one night. Don't start. I remember one night We were out front of the hotel. That's where people went to have their drinks and smoke and converse. And there was a guy out there, and I got to say, he looked like a shorter version of Frank, but he was doing Frank. And yeah, it was and
the whole hand, yeah.
It was this guy started talking. He was going hush, hush, yeah. And, well, this guy started talking some shit to some of the wrestlers. Oh, I would have taken a chop from Bruiser Brody. I would have done this. I would have done that. And I looked at him and I said, have you ever taken a chop from a wrestler? And this guy's pretty well oiled by now. And he says, no. I said, well, guess what? Tonight's your lucky night. And he's opening the show. Go ahead. And I said, all right, kid, you wanted it. And I wound back all the way back from Alabama. And I came like Bruiser. Wham! I came down. This kid's eyes looked like they were ready to pop out of his head. And even some of the other wrestlers that were standing around were like, what, are they shooting at us? You know?
Right.
And this kid looked at me. I looked at him. I said, I'm no Bruiser Brody. I said, but I'm telling you now, if Brody would have hit you with one of them, your lungs would have popped out of your ears.
Did you ever see the size of Frank's hand? Did you ever see the size of Frank's
my hands aren't small, but his would have engulfed mine. You know?
His hand looked like a catcher's mitt, Mike, okay?
Yeah, I know.
Frank's hand looked like a catcher's mitt. All right.
And I told the kid, I said, be lucky. I said, be lucky that he wasn't here to do it. I said, because he'd caved in your chest.
He wouldn't have had any lungs. Are you shitting me? Oh my God.
Yeah. The wrestling business changed so much with independence.
Talk about that. That's a great segue, Barbara. That's a really good segue. Let's talk about how it's changed for the better and how it's changed for the worse. I have a guy here named Jake Hudson, who is a current day wrestling fan. He's trying to break into the podcast business. We're breaking him in good tonight.
Yeah.
And so Jake, want to ask Barbara some questions about the current state of wrestling? What does she think? Or questions about that?
Number one, what do you think about NXT? If you watched NXT, or
I haven't. I've heard about it, and I think it's up and coming, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Triple H and Shawn Michaels runs it.
Oh, Sean. Okay. The one I can talk about is AEW.
There you go.
All Elite Wrestling.
Because AEW, they did their premiere show. Their first show was here in Daytona Beach, and I got tickets from Jim Ross, because Jim is the you know what I mean,
commentator. He's commentator there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jake. And he put me in the front row, and they did it brilliant for their first. That was their big live show for their first one of their biggest lives. This was 2019, I think. It must have been just before COVID, before they shut everything down, if I remember.
Yeah.
And I have never sat in the front row of a wrestling match.
Really? Barb, for real? Straight shoot?
Oh, I apologize. I got 2 minutes in Japan when they had his memorial. When they had their big memorial show in Japan in 1988, they put me in the ring. We did the 10-bell count and everything.
Yeah, you and Jeff, right? You and Jeff.
Yeah, it was me, Jeff, and Stan. They just for a short.
That's right.
Match. I think we were only there for Stan's match, because Stan had a match. So we sat with Stan for a few minutes. Then he got up. He had a match, and then they did put me right there in the front row. But then that was all that. But for the AEW. That was really close, because, as I said, I'm not putting down AEW. I think it's because what they did was there was a comic convention in town, and they did their first show at the big building here, the Ocean
Yeah.
Center, at the same time as the
Right.
convention was going on. So when I walked into the Ocean Center, I could not believe the place was packed. I've never seen it like that.
Wow.
The place was packed. And most of them were the kids that had come from the, the convention, because they
Yeah.
had the whole weekend. And to me, I mean, it was interesting. They're certainly very athletic, but there was so much going on. I couldn't achieve. I mean, the acrobats and the things and the moves they were making, but it was a whole different thing than what you call about like a match with Frank or Stan or Abdullah or any one of those ones. And I have to admit, they had a phone on the floor. I remember the old days; they just ran out on the concrete.
Oh yeah, sure.
There was no phone. You hit that concrete.
No, they're spoiled, but Barbara, they're spoiled. These kids. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it was
spoiled.
this big pad all the way around on the outside. Of course, they did a lot of, because they were doing flips over, onto the ground. But it wasn't concrete. It was a nice little pad for them, which is good because they're not going to get hurt as much as what in the old days.
I want them kids to sit down with Murphy and I, a couple of begrudged, what do they call us? Grizzled old vets. Is that what they call us? Okay, sit down with us and let me put my arm around it and listen, kid. When I was a kid, this is how we we worked on concrete, no pads. We worked with no steel barriers in front of the ring. There were people there, and if we fell on people.
Feet of snow uphill both ways.
Yeah, right.
I know, but it was a whole different style of wrestling, and Cody got in there and that, and as I said, I'm glad they're doing. I mean, I know they're doing good. I'm glad they're doing good. Looks like they're doing really good, and I know there's a lot of little organizations opening up right now. I know there was one in Texas that looks like it closed down, that Lacey Von Erich was part of, but I don't see that.
Oh, Barbara, was that the Fury?
Yeah, the Southwest Fury.
Yeah, I know people that were involved with that. They were having financial issues.
Okay. Yeah. Because all of a sudden that was all big. I know James Beard, of course. I know him pretty well too, and he was part of it. And then there was nothing there. They kind of closed.
Yeah, I know a lot about that. I can't talk too much publicly about it, but when we get off the air, I'll fill you in. I got a question for you. You knew Frank better than anybody. What would Frank think of today's product? First of all, let's break it down. What would he think about the WWE?
Well, in the old days, Vince Sr. used to call the house quite a bit. And I know he talked he had, whatever it was, I know he talked to Vince Sr. quite a bit. And I know he said that if he didn't know where it would go, if anything ever happened, and I didn't want to get in, anything either.
Yeah.
Because he knew that at the end of his career, that he would probably go back to WWE for one last hurrah.
Yeah.
I knew that you get to a certain age and you can't destroy your body the way that we know a lot of you guys had, because it was the bumps that were taken, and as you said, as people get older, I mean, so many, I know about so many people that it's whether you play football when you're young and you have the injuries, that, or you go in, because most of the football players go into wrestling. That's what a lot of the wrestlers are. So they're already used to the pain and the hurt and everything. So
Barb, let me pull a question from the rumor mill. Every now and then I like to do that. There was a rumor many years ago that Frank was either partnering with or was attempting to partner with someone in Florida to buy Eddie Graham's territory in Florida.
Never heard anything of it. He usually talked to me with everything. So if it was anything to do with that, I should have known. The same as this thing with PR, Puerto Rico. Everybody's saying that he was getting into the territory there.
Yeah. Once in a while, I like to pull the rumor mill questions up. First of all, for two reasons. One, to see if there's any validity. Number two, if it's not true, we squash it, we kill it now, and be done with it. You know, that's what we do. You know, Murphy and I are very good that way. Put the kibosh on it now. That was the rumor for a long time, was that I think it was Frank and someone else. I don't even know who the hell it was. Were supposed to buy Eddie Graham's old territory in Florida. So I don't know
what he was doing before everything happened. He'd hooked up with Herb Simmons and Larry Matisak. That's who I wrote the book with. Me and Larry wrote the book, and he'd hooked up with them. He was starting his own organization with Herb and going around. He was doing a lot of little independent shows. They were, you know, Herb is a promoter. He's been one for 40 years.
Sure. Yeah.
So they had hooked up, and this is 40 plus years ago. Well, 40 plus years ago. No,
yeah.
3 years ago. And they were already starting. He had already started. He had already had a company called BAM, Brody Athletic Management.
Yeah, I remember that. You talked about that on the last show.
So
Brody Athletic Management. Yep.
Yeah, he already had cards. He bought a wrestling ring from Blanchard. We had acreage in that, and he had an old big garage that the wrestling ring was set up. And what he was do his own organization. So he was already planning on what to do after wrestling to make it where he could enjoy his son. And especially, like I said, with Herb, they were already going around little shows, creating little shows. And he would bring in names like Terry Gordy, Hacksaw, Johnny Ford. I think he already had people that were, because what it was, he told them up front, we're going to take care of you. You're going to get paid this much. There's not going to be any hassle. And for someone to go in and you know what it's like if you go in and everything is very easy, you want to go back.
Sure. Barb, that's Texas, right? If I'm not mistaken.
No, he was starting off. Well, he would be eventually in doing Texas, but he was starting off with Herb Simmons, because Herb had all the contacts and he had all the papers and everything. So they were doing shows around, you know, St. Louis and things like that. So
okay. You know, and I'm wondering, as you're telling that story, I'm wondering if that's not what they were referring to, with the rumor mill about, you know, Frank getting involved with a partner. Because I know that I remember there was clearly Frank and someone else involved in a venture. That I remember. But I wasn't sure if it was Florida or Texas, because I knew you were living in Texas for quite a while.
Right. No, this was St. Louis.
Okay.
St. Louis, because Herb.
Was that while it was the Sam Mushnick still around at the time, Barb?
Mushnick, yeah, he was very big. In fact, he said that this is a great book that this gentleman, Ed Wheatley, it's not my book, so he sent me a copy. I don't know if you see it.
My God, Wrestling at the Chase?
Wrestling at the Chase. Can you see? It's hard because I don't see what I'm looking up. I'm trying to see.
Yeah, Frank Goodish and Bulldog Brower.
And this so this was the two bruisers. Remember then? Excuse me. This was the two bruisers. They had to have a match there because nobody in the territory was Sam's territory. You couldn't have two bruisers. You couldn't have Dick the Bruiser. And
Dick the Bruiser and Bruiser Brody.
Yeah, so they had that was because the loser had to have another name. Of course, it was Dick the Bruiser's territory. So
yeah, oh sure.
That's when he became King Kong Brody.
Well, let's talk about that. There were a couple of King Kongs running around, vying for a position. There was King Kong Brody, which you just answered that one. We'll talk about that in a second. The other one was King Kong Mosca.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Now, there was one and only one match, and I want to know if you know about this, because I know about it. There was only one match. You know where I'm going with it? You know where I'm going with this one?
No, because
King Kong Brody and King Kong Mosca, Angelo King Kong Mosca, who, by the way, just passed away. Rest in peace.
Yeah, I thought.
Yep, he
Alright.
passed away a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
Yep, he sure did. He died a week and a half ago. Angelo King Kong Mosca. And but he lived a ripe old age. And still ornery as just you had to know Angelo Mosca. He was just a character, man. Go ahead, Jake. You got a question.
I actually also I heard before we came on that one of the Blackjacks passed away.
Yes. He just,
Blackjack Lanza.
yeah.
Oh, Blackjack Lanza, yeah.
That was yesterday, I think he just passed.
Yeah.
Yes, Barb, you're right. Yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, they're both gone now. Blackjack Mulligan, Blackjack Lanza. Yep.
I had the chance to meet Barry Windham one time. I was working at that con, and we had Tully Blanchard, J.J. Dillon, Barry Windham.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, King Flair wasn't there. He couldn't take the time.
Yeah.
And I remember, and if you go on my Facebook, there's a picture of me standing with them doing the Four Horsemen sign. And, you know, I look at the wrestlers of then, you know, Bruiser Brody, Blackjack Lanza, Blackjack Mulligan, Tully Blanchard. You know, I look at the wrestlers of then, and my own personal thought is these kids, and I'm not putting them down. Okay,
Mike,
let me say that.
Let's be honest
These
about it,
kids-
Murph. Let's cut to the chase. Here's the thing.
Well, if you let me finish, I will.
Here's what bothers me about today's wrestlers, and I know where you're going with it. These guys, you got wrestlers today that are big as Frank's leg, okay?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, his leg was bigger than most of these guys, all right? Blackjack Mulligan was, have you ever seen this man? He was a mountain. He was a freaking mountain. The guy was 6'8",
Wow.
340 pounds, and he could move. Like a cat, he could move. Okay? Frank Goodish was a guy 6'7" that could move like a gazelle. Do you understand what I'm saying? These guys, these wrestlers today, the superstars of today, they don't come up to Frank's belly button. Are you shitting me? They're little children, Murph. They're
Well, what I
kids,
was
they're
doing-
not wrestlers. These guys were men. They were men's men. Okay, I'll shut up now. Go ahead.
What I was going to say was, you take guys like Bruiser Brody, Blackjack Lanza, and that, and then you take the guys from today. These guys from today, they couldn't keep up with guys like Bruiser Brody or Blackjack Lanza or Blackjack. They couldn't keep up with them, because if you look at the schedule that, you know, Frank had to deal with, these kids couldn't do it. You know, and myself included.
And that's a shame, Murph. Can I tell you why? Because they're missing out on an education. Frank Goodish, and Blackjack Mulligan and Blackjack Lanza and Abby, and I love Abby. These guys learned. Oh man, he's a trip. He's a trip. They learned the art and psychology of wrestling in the car.
Yep.
That's the problem. They don't have car rides no more. They're spoiled brats that are taking airplanes, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to jet to the next event. Oh, well, what are you going to learn between here and there that'll take you all of 20 minutes in the air? Not much.
Yep.
Okay? Not much. You want to learn? Spend 3 or 4 hours in the car with Jimmy Valiant. Spend 3 or 4 hours in the car with Bruce Swayze or somebody like that. Okay?
And so
Scott Casey or my friend Eddie Mansfield. Spend some time in the car with these guys, and you'll learn what wrestling is all about.
Exactly.
And it's far more real than people think it is.
Oh,
Okay?
yeah.
They might know who's going to win, but let me tell you where the real work takes place. It takes place in the office, in the back. What you see in the ring, that's the finished product.
Yeah.
The hard work takes place in the car,
Mm-hmm.
in the diner, at the hotel. That's where they're formulating. That's where they're learning. They're crafting their skills. They're learning to hone their skills by listening to the veterans. The veterans are all gone now. That's why shows like this, and thank you for the greatest compliment this show's ever gotten from the International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. Tony Villano, I love you, okay? This show is keeping their memory alive, okay? I don't cover match results on this show. Fuck that. I don't want to. I don't care about WWE, NXT, AEW. I'm holding out hope that they do it the right way. But New Japan isn't what it used to be. Ring of Honor can't even compete, okay? They're doing good stuff, but they can't even compete. But shows like this, Wrestling with the Future, we're keeping these guys alive. Old school wrestling. So that one day, Murphy, when you're old and decrepit, which is coming up,
No.
and they
Thank you, Barbara.
and they talk about you, they'll talk about you with respect. Because
Well,
they
I'm
know
still
that
waiting for, but
okay, now that I've turned red, I'm on my fucking tirade
Yeah,
now.
just calm. Like I said, just breathe.
There we go. Go ahead, Jake.
When I was promoting the show, I was promoting the podcast. I said we focus on wrestling from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and a little bit of the 90s.
You're absolutely
That's
right.
You're absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah,
Because that's how old these guys are. They're in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s.
I know.
yeah.
No, it's the years
I
that
love
we
this
focus
kid.
on.
Oh, how is Tony? Do you ever see Tony? Tony and Holly.
Yeah, I see him on Facebook all the time, but he's always, he's always doing something. He's always either producing a movie, or he's trying to act in one, or he's at somebody's competition, like his granddaughter's, I don't know, karate tournament or some crazy stuff like that. He's always doing something, but he always, but Barbara, did you ever notice though? He's always, I don't care what he's doing, he always makes time to find some place to eat. Because there's always food pictures on his Facebook page.
But that's what some people do. We just put our food pictures on and tell people this is what we're eating or not eating.
But that's not good for me because I'm on a diet and I can't have that shit.
Oh, I know. It's we're doing the same thing here. And as I said, I'm craving potatoes and bread and pasta, and sugar, and
Making me hungry.
How's Jeffrey?
He's doing fine. He's in Austin. In fact, I got to see him last a couple of weeks ago. I was in Austin a couple of weeks ago, so it was really good to see.
Man, well, I'll tell you what, man. He looks like his daddy. Boy, does he look like Frank. Holy crap.
Oh, I know what his
Speaking
eyes.
of which, Barbara, has Jeff ever thought about going into the business?
Not if he's smart.
No, because you know what? He blames that for losing his dad.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So no, in fact, when we did the Vice documentary, that was the first time he's ever been on anything. It just so happened and talked about it. It kind of surprised me because this whole time, I mean, he's 40 years old, 41 years old.
Well, I tell you what, I know quite a bit about what that young man went through. I know you had to be mother and father, and I know it was rough for you. There were times that Hello, doggy.
Hang on a sec. Hang on.
No, it's look, we're very dog friendly here. It's all cool.
Yeah.
It's all good. But here's the thing, though. On a serious note, and I don't get serious often, but that young man had every reason and every right to blame the business, because even had Frank physically lived, the business still takes its toll. It robs you of your father because he's on the road. He misses Christmas and birthdays and anniversaries. And, instead of being there to see your wrestling match at high school, he's off in another state wrestling, for maybe $100 or maybe $300 or whatever he's going to get that night. But the point is that that kid, and I call him a kid because he's a hell of a lot younger than I am. That young man, lashed out, and I'm sure he did, and had every right to, and I'm sure he got in trouble, and he probably had every right to, and I know that hopefully it's all out of his system now.
Yeah.
And he's a good, upstanding, fine young man contributing to Texas society.
Yeah, so he's, as I said, everything. It was good to see him, and as I said, to visit. When you live so far away from your kids, it's hard. And I only have the one. And now in Florida, he's in Texas, but he's a Texas boy. He'll always be a Texas boy.
What part of Texas, if you don't mind me asking?
Austin.
Austin. Okay, he was about 45 minutes away from where I was.
Oh, where were you?
In Kelleher.
Oh, Kelleher. Yeah, I know all that area quite well.
Yep.
So.
Kelleher, Fort Hood area.
Yeah.
Central Texas. I used to steal away when I'd have, like, if I had a 3 or 4 day weekend, I'd try to steal away and go down to the sportatorium and.
Oh man, there you go. The sportatorium.
I know many tales to be told there.
Yeah, boy. If those walls could have talked, they could tell some Brody stories.
Oh, I'm sure.
Cold hot dogs and warm sodas.
Nothing left but a parking lot, brother. Nothing left but a parking lot.
I saw that when they pulled it down and everything, and it was like,
yeah.
God.
Go ahead, Jake.
I wanted to ask what do you guys think about MLW and the Von Erich, the kids, the Von Erich kids? What do you think about that?
I think it's great that they're taking after that they're keeping the Von Erich name alive. I think what a wonderful testament that, and now they're having children of their own, and now all the sons will grow up and keep that Von Erich name alive. I think it's a blessing, and I'm sure with Kevin being the only one left now, that he's got a whole. With the grandkids and the kids and everything, and then the 2 boys going out and wrestling, and I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, you know what? You just reminded me. He is the only one left. They're talking about 7, 7 boys. Yeah. He's the only one left. But I'll tell you what, his kids, his 2 boys are amazing. They're really good. And they look like the family. They got that Von Erich look. The one kid looks like his Uncle Kerry, and that was he was talking about a horrible tragedy. That was an awful tragedy.
The whole family.
Young, young guy. Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
Number one, the Von Erich. I think they were the MLW Tag Team Champions. And also, I've been following MLW for a while because they got some great talent over there. They're bringing back Lucha Underground. They call it Aztec Underground.
Okay.
Okay.
And
I think these new, like we talked about, these new organizations. I think it's great that, as I said, especially
absolutely
Von Erich. that's a name that you can't, you know.
Go ahead, Murph.
Well, Barb, there's one name I'm going to bring up to you to get your opinion on. And he's a commentator. He says it like it is. What is your opinion, Jim Cornette?
Yeah, I met him in Texas, 2014 or something. He just says it the way it is.
Yes, he does. Oh,
Well,
I
just like Angelo. Angelo doesn't have. You're pretty good too, Angelo.
Well, thank you. There's a couple of reasons for that. I learned from Jim Ross not to lie. That's the first thing. Be honest, be true to yourself, tell it like it is. Okay. I met Jim years and years ago in Cherry Hill at the Cauliflower Alley NWA convention. They were joined. In fact, I made history that day. I had my picture taken with Gordon Soley. Turned out it was the last picture Gordon ever took. Ever.
Dang.
Because he was there scheduled for the convention. He showed up that morning and he lasted about an hour and a half, and they put him on a plane and sent him home. He wasn't feeling well, and he passed.
The history that he made was actually that Gordon Soley met somebody younger than him.
Now Gordon ended up passing away like 2 months later.
Yeah.
His daughter Pam Allen was on the show. She actually told me, she said, "You are the last person ever took a picture with my dad."
Wow.
And we have that show. Yeah, so it's on our network.
Well, that's interesting because I saw, is it Jolie, his son?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw him. I was in Waterloo. When I was in Waterloo the past few months ago, he gave me a photo of his dad and Frank. He brought it to the
wow, yeah.
He gave me a photo of the two of them together. He said,
"Well, I'll tell you what, Barb, I have something playing behind me."
I see that. I'm looking at myself. It's like, dang, it's like going down memory lane. Who's that young girl?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been watching it in the background
as you're looking at these photos here. Tell me what's going through your mind. To bring back any memories, so you remember specific times and places.
Yeah, especially that one, as I said, especially that, the ones that have me in it and everything, the personal pictures.
Well, I want to talk about one particular. Yeah, I want to talk about one particular one. One particular one. Is a picture of Frank with your mother and father.
Oh, that one is my auntie. My mom died when I was 27.
Oh, it was your aunt. Okay, it was your aunt.
So
okay.
My mom's sister was looking after her when she passed, and she was a spinster, so she just kept living on. So she kind of looked after Dad after my mom passed away. So that's my auntie Evelyn and my dad and Frank. And,
I want to ask you about that photo. What was particularly your father's reaction when you take Frank home to meet the family? I have to I got to hear there's a story there. I just know there is.
All he said is, "I know you got a good head on you, girl, so I trust your judgment."
Now, here's a backup question to that. How nervous was Frank coming home?
There you go. That's more than the other
exactly.
way. I mean, my dad was one of those people that just accept, you know what I mean, the old-fashioned gentleman back in those days, born in the 1912 or whatever it was,
Yeah.
And it was like, I think Frank was the one more nervous because how that happened was sometimes he would go to Japan and sometimes it was back-to-back trips. So instead of coming back to the States, he would go somewhere. Like he took me, he said, "You go to New Zealand and then I will come visit you in New Zealand, and then I'll go back to Japan. So then you get to spend quite a bit of time with your family. So that was the reason that I would go visit my dad, and he just would come by for the week in between his tours of Japan.
How long were you and Frank in California?
We didn't live. No, we never lived. That was his sister. We spent a lot of time with.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
In California. And then his mom and dad lived in California for a while.
Oh, I got you. Okay. It was his family. Okay.
Yeah.
I knew there was a California connection.
Yeah, that was, his mom and dad lived there for a while, and his sister lived there for a long period of time. She was there for 20 years or something in California. But that was California.
I'll tell you what. As usual, Barbara Goodish delivers. Amazing guest. I have been waiting a long time to get you back on. If it was up to me, I would have Barb Goodish and Karen McDaniel every week.
I was just going to say, give Karen my best. I enjoyed the show when we were both on.
Well, she's going to actually, it's funny that you say that, because she's going to come back on and talk. She just wrote a book.
I know.
Yeah, she's going to come on and talk about it. I had a little hand in that. I was the one who hooked her up with John Cosper. So
yeah, I like John. I've met John too.
Good guy.
He's a good guy. Yeah, he was the one that wrote Dr. D's book.
Yeah.
Well,
he's an incredible writer. Here's the funny thing. We've never actually met. I've never met John, but I've referred him 3 times for books to other people. And they've all written books, including my friend Princess Victoria.
Oh, I saw her too in September. I think it was September, because we did a show. Yeah, she was down at the Cauliflower Alley Club in. I think it was September. Was there. So yeah, she's a character.
Talk about a woman with no filter.
You are so right there.
She is zero filter, baby. I'm going to tell you what, I love her. She's the best.
Now,
Barb, plug away your social websites, Bruiser Brody merchandise, books, tapes, what you got?
Yeah, they can, like I said, I don't have one. They just can message me on Facebook. I have everything, see what I've got. And then I'm hoping to soon this year have a website that will have everything on it. At the moment, I don't have one. It's just through the good fortune of meeting good people like yourself, and that I can kind of advertise things. And
there's one thing, Barbara, I forgot to mention, and I wish somebody had reminded me, but you just reminded me actually as you were speaking. The Brody Cup.
Oh,
the Brody Cup. When is the Brody Cup?
I have no idea what happened. Remember, it was meant. There's 2. There's the Brody Cup with what's his name, Charlie, and the one we did one in Philadelphia.
Oh, okay.
That's one. But then there's the one that Herb Simmons does every single year in May. Of course, last year because of COVID we didn't. But
that's the one. Yeah, that's been referred to, and again, correct me if I'm wrong. I want to make sure I get this all right. That's the official Brody Cup.
Right, because somebody had did another Brody Cup too, or Brody Cup. But Herb is the one. He does a memorial Brody Cup every year. He's been doing it for as long as I can remember. And we didn't have it last year.
Yeah, that's the one.
Because of that. But
yeah, that's the one we were talking about.
It's going to be May the 14th in East Condolet, outside St. Louis. Yeah, that's already. It's going to be back to normal.
Now, that's the Brody Cup that has your official endorsement.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. That's where I want to make sure. I do not want to endorse, and I want to make this.
Yes, because I had no idea what happened. There was going to be one in Texas, but it got canceled. I have no idea what happened and whatever. Herb is.
I really wanted to make. Brody. Yeah, thank you, Barb. I really wanted to make a concerted effort to absolutely promote the Brody Cup, the official Brody Cup that has Barbara Goodish endorsement, not the wannabes and the knockoffs.
And
I think I'm going to have to come out of retirement for this. I think that Brody Cup would look nice in my trophy case.
yeah.
You
Always
mean
have
with
to go and give. And,
You mean with the beer cans in there, Mike?
Don't start. Don't you start.
and no, so as I said,
Don't make me make a
every
comeback.
Go ahead, Jake.
Every year I go down there, and it's so okay. Jake, you have a question?
I actually, the Herb Simmons' company is a, I think, Southern Illinois Championship Wrestling.
Oh, Herb, yes, it is. Thank you. I was trying to think of that. You know, you get to a certain age that sometimes things
SICW. Yeah.
The reason why I know that is because Herb Simmons did some work with Burt Prentice at USA Championship Wrestling in Jackson, Tennessee, and they also helped promote the Jerry Lawler 50th year.
That's right.
Show.
Yeah.
And that's the Herb that we're talking about. And Burt just passed away too.
Yeah, the late Burt Prentice. Yes.
Yeah, Burt Prentice passed. I know Herb was very upset. There you go. That's who we should get on the show before the Brody Cup in May. As it gets closer, have Herb on the show because
I would love to. Absolutely.
Because he always brings in somebody. There's been J.J. Dillon. There's been Stan.
Oh God,
there's been Dr. D. I mean, you name it. He brings somebody in.
Absolutely. Murph, reach out to Herb Simmons.
Herb Simmons, you got
Herb Simmons, yeah.
Yeah, because I said, he always has my back. He's the one if I ever need anything, I never have any questions or anything.
Yeah.
And he's been there since before all this happened. So he's been in my life over 33, like a lot of these people, when I think back, over 33 years, over 40 years that I have known.
Yeah.
I've
known God, sure.
People. And Jake, thank you for all that. And I was going to try to remember all that information, and you know it. You know it. Thank you.
And by the way, on Thanksgiving they showed on the, now they call it the Prentice Wrestling Network. They showed the last event ever of USA Championship Wrestling, including the 10-bell salute for Burt, and they had all his family in the ring, including
beautiful
Burt's sister, and also Burt's was Jason Prentice, nephew. I've been following USA Championship Wrestling since I found it last year. I've been looking at it. They've had some great people there, including they had Jerry Lawler wrestle matches there.
That's right.
See, he doesn't say much, but when he does, it's worth it.
Yeah, I'm letting you guys talk because you guys are the stars. I'm just the background.
No, not at all.
No, you're part of the show, Jacob. Yes, very good part of the show. Barb, thank you so much, my dear, for joining us. Barb Goodish can be found on Facebook if you want any, and I mean any, Bruiser Brody merchandise. Wrestling's Last Rebel. That book is available. The companion video is also available from High Spots. Probably could get it through Barbara too. I'm sure she's got some connections there.
I got some copies.
I'll be sending her a friend request.
Yeah,
there you go.
I was kind of wondering if we were friends. I didn't think we were, so please do.
Yes, ma'am, I will.
Yeah, you guys have only met on the show. You've never met on Facebook.
No.
But yeah, Murph, he's like a part of the furniture. He's been here a long time. Jake Hudson, thank you for joining us, Jake. This is your first time out with us.
Yeah.
Michael Armageddon Murphy. Murph, thank you once again for your input. And Barb Goodish can be found, as I said, on Facebook for all of your Brody merchandise. You know, the man, the myth, the legend. He was all the above, but most importantly, he was Frank Goodish, the husband of Barbara Goodish. And we are indebted to Barbara for her strength and her support of wrestling and her continued support of her friends. old and young. And remember, you never know. There might be another Bruiser Brody out there.
You
It's,
never
it's a
know.
long shot, but there might be, you know.
Yeah, and I just want to say to everybody, the three of you, and to everybody out there, and everybody that remembers Frank, you have no idea how much the family appreciates each and every one of you to keep the memory alive. That today,
Absolutely.
that he is still so alive in people's minds, and
Absolutely.
it's just incredible. And I just say thank you. That's just
You are quite welcome. This
Barbara,
show,
I
as
don't
you
know of a
know,
wrestler out there who hasn't stolen something from Frank.
absolutely. They've all look. If you're going to steal from the best.
The best. That's it.
See, if you in writing, if you steal from a good writer, it's called plagiarism. If you steal from a good wrestler, it's called common sense.
right.
Yep.
Remember that.
And I think it shows something about the person. If somebody has to copy you, that shows something that you have left a lasting memory.
Absolutely.
An imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
That's
Absolutely
exactly.
it is. And on that note, for Michael Armageddon Murphy, for Jammin' Jake Hudson, and for beautiful Barbara Goodish, I'm Mad Dog DeCipio. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time as we continue Wrestling
Happy
with the Future.
holidays, everyone.
Oh,
Happy
yes.
holidays.
Christmas is coming.
It's Christmas.
Wait till you see what we got planned for Christmas next week. Bye-bye.